It's kind of crazy to say Steph Curry is playing the best basketball of his career considering how incredible he was in his prime. But we're seeing a special energized version of Steph through this first 11 games, buzzing around the court with the quickness we hadn't seen for a while. And they needed every ounce of that special stuff to overcome the Spurs in the NBA Cup, as Curry reminded us all that he will not go gentle into that good night-night. It all started with one of my favorite plays, blind pig out of the triangle offense, where Draymond gets the centering pass and Curry is already cutting behind him. The natural flow, if he can't penetrate the defense, is to ball screen, and I want you to pay attention first to De'Aaron Fox getting completely hung up on the pick, but this was also interesting. Stephon Castle had to pick up Draymond Green in transition, but at this moment of truth, he decides to get back on his main assignment, Jimmy Butler, but Wemby isn't interested, giving the greatest shooter of all time a practice shot to get warmed up. Curry only had 2 traditional assists, and we'll show you why this isn't an accurate stat for a guy like him, but in the traditional 3-on-2 break, the simple bounce pass gets an opening for an easy layup for anyone not being contested by Wemby, as new starter Will Richard had to get creative just to get this off. Off this terrible turnover in what should be an advantageous inbound position for the Spurs, Curry decides to take on 2 defenders and forces them to put him on the line for 2 of his 8 free throws. It was Champagne's turn in the blender, and to be honest, I would have liked to have seen him get more chances defensively. The inside ball screen gets Steph an advantage when Champagne slides up to force him baseline, and with Cornette roaming from the weak side, he's able to keep him where he wants him, in the dreaded mid-range. Pretty good contest on the step back, but Curry is locked in already. I love this drop split into spin Curry hits Castle with to utilize the Gary Payton ball screen. With his back to the defender, he splits his feet wide as he pounds the dribble, faking a spin to his right. Not in love with the left elbow making some chin music, but either it wasn't that much contact or the refs missed it, and they begin to take advantage of Luke Cornette's drop coverage. Cornette is hoping he can lure Curry into the mid-range area, but sorry Luke, that ain't gonna happen. This was funny. The Spurs lined up in a defensive position for this rare mid-game jump ball. Curry's man is Stephon Castle right here, only he's busy wrestling with Buddy Hield. For some reason, he decides to stay with Buddy. Cornette is the first to notice that no one is guarding the greatest shooter of all time, and literally has to push Barnes in that direction, but this is silly. They let Curry walk up into an open 30-footer. The results are predictable. Steph doesn't need to make the pass that leads to the made shot to get credit for the Warriors' basket. His actions are much more profound than that. This fake backdoor gets Devin Vassell all bent out of shape and then forces a switch on the weak side as Wemby takes Fox's spot. They run keep action off of Horford as Steph eliminates Draymond's man with his ball screen. Notice there's no switch because they're petrified of leaving Curry for even a second. De'Aaron Fox's energy and intensity was not what it needed to be this whole game, and it's his responsibility to close out to the first pass. This doesn't happen, and Richard hits the hesitation 3. They wanted to test out Wemby a little and see how he'll do guarding the pick and roll, but they run some false action first that gets a switch. Guarding Draymond tends to mean you don't need to mark him way out on the perimeter despite his decent 3-point shooting. However, if you do this while Green is screening for Curry, you're screwed. Green is going to erase Curry's man, and it leaves Wemby woefully behind the play as he literally spins around like a corkscrew while Curry lights him up with a 60-degree arc moonball that drops perfectly through the rim. I think they realized Fox was going to be a good target and used Curry as a ball screener for Butler at the end of the first half. This was successfully switched until Fox lets Jimmy turn the corner, and while this might have looked like an easy little floater, with Wemby contesting, nothing is easy. Now it's Butler's turn to ball screen for Curry with the other 3 spread wide on the weak side. On the switch, Curry hits the new defender with a quick inside-out dribble. Fox should be willing to help off of Butler better than this, and Curry takes off from 10 feet away from the basket, finger rolling this by bouncing it at almost the top of the backboard before it drops through. This is the pinnacle of finishing skill for a guard. Another example of the psychological trauma that Curry inflicts on a team defense. Just the threat of a pin down for him on the right side turns Wemby's head so far that he allows his own man a straight line drive to the basket. By the way, I was a little surprised Draymond made this one, to be honest. So this was interesting. Luke Cornette checks in midway through the third and they have him guarding Butler. Probably so Castle can move off of Curry due to foul issues, and they figure Al Horford won't post up even with the smaller Keldon Johnson on him. But the Warriors immediately seized on this to earn a trip to the line. The next time down, Kornet is woefully slow chasing Jimmy up to the ball screen, and this is simply way too easy to get this shot off. The Warriors generated a ton of easy shots in this game, and if you want some easy opportunities to win money, then you've got to play Prize Picks, where all you have to do is pick more or less in a variety of categories for a ton of different sports. It's the only app that offers stacks, where you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Here are my picks for tomorrow's games, with Mayfield easily passing for good yardage, the Seahawks and Rams should be a barn burner, and Kelsey just not being the target versus the Broncos. Follow me on the app so you can just copy my lineups, something you'll benefit from during basketball season. Best of all, download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. With Wembanyama out of the game, the Warriors feel slightly more emboldened to attack the rim, even though Kornet is a solid rim protector. The backcourt ball screen forces a switch, and a simple through-the-legs dribble gets Curry right by Johnson like he's standing still. The nice pass fake freezes Kornet just long enough for Curry to drift by him for the layup. The second Johnson tried to reach in for a steal here, it was over. Curry does not let him back in position, and Kornet simply must be a lot higher than this. He's guarding Payton, who's way out on the perimeter. Curry shocks Johnson with the right foot jump into a floater from beyond the free throw line, and it's always a tell when a defender quickly pulls his arms down by his side, an admission that he knows he fouled the shooter, and Curry didn't mean to bank this in, but that's what happens when you're as good a shooter as he is. Not much space to work with in this pick and roll, and it's nice when the roll man can tangle up his arm with Keldon Johnson's while he's rolling. Did that have an effect on the contest? Probably, but I'm wondering if anything short of blocking his shot would have prevented him from nailing it. I was a little shocked Draymond missed a wide-open Horford cutting baseline when Johnson fell into a coma. However, you can't blame Green for being focused on the split screen for Curry. Fox has no urgency getting around the screen. Wemby is more concerned about GP cutting, and that's an open 3 to a righty shooter going to his left. The easier direction when shooting off the move because the right hip and elbow are already aligned properly to the hoop. Speaking of Fox's energy, at this point Curry had 32 points and is 7 for 14 from 3. And yet just watch Fox moving around trying to guard him. He's not in a stance, he's walking around. Even this closeout isn't intense enough. And it gets worse from there as Curry never stops moving and looking for an opening, and the Warriors never stop looking to get him the ball. On every possession, Curry has to deal with extreme physicality as Castle is into his space before Curry runs him into the Horford pin down. We got an example of a new rule focus when Castle uses a secondary arm swipe into Curry's hand to merit a foul call and 3 free throws. While it's still legal to make contact with the hand or wrist after release, if you bring that arm down forcefully while doing so, the refs will blow the whistle, rightfully so. Setting the early ball screen yielded a lot of open shots, as it forces a switch and an isolation without the ability of the defense to offer any help whatsoever. The simple left-right tween gets Jeremy Sohan stumbling backwards, and the extra little sidestep gives Steph several feet of space to launch this one. I know Castle is upset with whatever this is in the backcourt. Is he holding Payton? Is Payton holding him? Does Payton throw him to the floor, or is he just trying to get away? But that doesn't excuse how slow he is getting back into the play, just barely jogging up the floor until he realizes he'd better guard the wide-open corner shooter. Watch how Wemby wants the guy that wasn't hustling to pre-switch with him so it can be Castle who picks up Curry on the switch. Good cut by Payton to occupy Castle so no one is there to help on Curry, who gets another open jumper to fall. Credit to Castle for picking Curry up early and cutting him off well on the first move, but the behind the back dribble gets Curry even with him, which is a severe advantage when he gets to sprint to the basket. Wemby comes over and is so accustomed to rejecting any and all shots like this, but watch how high Curry hits the backboard with this finger roll. It's practically at the gray line at the very top, around 13 feet in the air. He can't use the upper right corner of the square above the rim. He's got to somehow figure out exactly where to bank this in off a transparent surface with no markings. Incredible shot making. It got to the point where Wemby was just out here straight tripping Curry by kicking out his foot. Unclear why he's upset unless it was at himself. And the rest of this possession did a good job denying Curry the ball and taking him out of the play. But the ball movement by the Warriors was terrific all night. They made 40 more passes than their average per game, and it leads to an open Payton who hits the clutch 3 to begin the comeback. More examples of Curry's effect without being the shooter or the assister. He draws a double team in the backcourt, which is a great idea by the Spurs, but they catch Castle not locked in as he's a step slow getting to Brandon Podziemski, who hits another clutch three. More Curry Jedi mind tricks. He tells Jimmy to pass to Peyton so they can run their split action together, and good job by the defense to blow it up towards the half court. But his attack off the ball screen draws both defenders into a hilarious synchronized jump at the shot fake, and Harrison Barnes should be rotating up but doesn't recognize it, and they hit yet another three-pointer to improbably take the lead. Here's their what the fuck sideline out of bounds play taken from Phil Jackson's Bulls teams, with Curry back screening Jimmy, who inbounded the ball. They want to run Steph off this BP pin down into a handoff from Draymond. Fox cheats high to take it away, and great read by Curry to simply cut back door and get an embarrassingly easy bucket in the clutch. Down 3 with 90 seconds left, this is like Curry using the force. As he draws both defenders with his cut, they find out this was not the droid they were looking for, as Draymond slips right to the basket for an even more embarrassingly easy layup to cut the lead to 1. The Warriors run this play all the time. While it looks like a simple Curry-Butler pick and roll, it's designed to go to Draymond, who's got a much better angle to hit the rolling Butler. But watch how this was defended. It should be a simple switch, with Fox's responsibility to jump below Butler to stop his cut. Instead, he ends up 6 feet behind the play. The Spurs should have Wemby guarding someone on the weak side so he won't be stuck out of the play and unable to protect the rim. The problem is, Steve Kerr has shooters out there, and the only reason the Warriors got back in this game was because of the open shots they were hitting. Nonetheless, the Spurs don't really deserve to win the game if they continually give up open layups down the stretch. This was a pretty good shot even if it was in the dreaded mid-range, but it's a make-or-miss league, and if you blink against Steph Curry, good luck. That said, it still looked great for the Spurs, as what would have been a magnificent play to take the lead with yet another layup gets absolutely annihilated by the long arms of the law. With the 1-point lead, they properly wind the clock down. The defense wants to lock Fox into one side of the court, and with Vassell so far away on the weak side, Podziemski can zone up and dissuade the pocket pass to Wemby. However, the lob was there. He wanted it, but Fox decides to take a contested mid-range shot. This one wasn't a good decision, and it gave the Warriors a chance. No need for a timeout. These guys have a ton of experience together in these situations, and they again catch Fox not in a proper stance, not intense enough to start, and it's no surprise he gets beat immediately, so badly that he ends up just running smack dab into the shooting Curry. And I have to tell you how shocked I was that out of a timeout, they ran a play that simply did not involve Wemby. He's the biggest advantage you have on the court, and while I understand the notion that he's good at offensive rebounding, his advantage can be negated if he doesn't move at all during the possession, allowing Draymond to simply bully him out of the way on a good box out of a terrible shot. A lefty going to his left for a heavily contested fadeaway, and the Warriors come away with a deserved victory to even their NBA Cup record at 1-1. I cannot wait to see what else Curry will do to blow us away this late in his career, and the Warriors can only hope he won't have to be like this just to eke out November wins going forward.